How did a powerful queen become the victim of a brutal assassination deep within the forests of Hungary? On the afternoon of the 28th of September, 1213, the Pellies forest lay silent, cloaked in the stillness of autumn. Golden and crimson leaves blanketed the forest floor like a royal carpet. Among the ancient trees, a group of hunters moved cautiously. At the front rode a woman of striking beauty and noble pride, dressed in garments embroidered with golden thread, Gertrude of Morania, Queen Consort of Hungary, wife of King Andrew II, and acting regent in his absence. Proud of her German heritage, Gertrude secretly despised the rough Hungarian nobles accompanying her, considering them far beneath her refined Bavarian relatives. But hidden among the trees, eyes filled with hatred watched her every move. Swords were quietly drawn. A plot, months in the making, was about to be executed. Within minutes, the forest would witness one of the most shocking assassinations in medieval European history. And what would happen to the Queen's body in the hours to follow would add an even more horrifying layer to this already bloody tale. But who was Gertrude of Morania? And how did she find herself at this fatal moment? To understand the brutal fate of this queen, we must travel back in time and uncover the story that led her to the edge of death. So how is a life written in blood truly forged? Born around 1185, Gertrude of Morania was the daughter of Berthold IV, Count of Andechs, who held the title of Margrave of Carniola and Istria, and was granted the title of Duke of Morania by Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. She was raised in a powerful, noble family where marriages were arranged to strengthen political alliances. Her two sisters both held high positions. Agnes became Queen of France by marrying King Philip II, and Hedwig was later canonized as Saint Hedwig of Silesia, the wife of Duke Henry III of Silesia. Like many other noble women of her time, Gertrude became a pawn in her family's political strategy. Before 1203, she married Andrew, a prince of the Arpad dynasty, youngest son of the late King Bela III of Hungary. This marriage was entangled in the political conflicts of the Holy Roman Empire, as Andrew allied with his wife's family to support Duke Philip of Swabia, while his brother, King Emmerich of Hungary, sided with King Otto IV of Germany. In 1203, Andrew launched a rebellion against Emmerich, but failed and was imprisoned. Gertrude had to return to her father's home for refuge. However, the situation quickly changed. In 1204, King Emmerich died, leaving his young son Ladislaus III as heir. A year later, Ladislaus also died. Andrew was released and ascended the throne of Hungary, while Gertrude officially became Queen Consort. According to many historians, the true descent into tragedy began the moment Gertrude seized power. Unlike queens who merely served as royal ornaments, she was ambitious, intelligent, and dangerous. She refused to remain behind the throne. With King Andrew II frequently absent on military campaigns, Gertrude assumed the regency and ruled Hungary with an iron fist wrapped in velvet. Chronicler Dietrich of Apolda wrote that she ruled like a man, a phrase that, in the context of the time, was not a compliment, but an accusation. It implied she had crossed a forbidden threshold, claiming authority that was never meant for a woman. But what truly ignited the fury of the Hungarian nobility was not just her power, but how she wielded it. Gertrude showed blatant favoritism. She shamelessly showered her German relatives and courtiers with land, titles and privileges, rewards that should have gone to native Hungarian lords. Her brother Berthold was appointed Archbishop of Kalocsa in 1206. and by 1212 he was also granted the powerful title of voivode, or governor of Transylvania, positions traditionally reserved for Hungary's own aristocracy. Each appointment felt like a dagger plunged into the pride of the nation's ruling elite. Contemporary chroniclers accused Gertrude of going so far as to donate a third of Hungary to her favored foreigners. Perhaps an exaggeration, but one that reveals the scale of outrage her actions provoked. To the Hungarian lords, Gertrude was not just a foreign queen, she was a traitor, a German cuckoo bird tearing apart the nest from within. And in the shadows of that rising fury, a deadly plot was beginning to take shape. It was horrifying. Gertrude became prey in her own forest. The resentment had simmered for years within the Hungarian nobility, like embers hidden beneath the ashes of power. And then in 1213 the fire ignited. Led by a lord named Peter, son of Tura, a group of nobles vowed to end the life of the woman they believed had become a curse upon the kingdom. Fate gave them their one and only chance when King Andrew II departed for a military campaign in Galicia, leaving his German wife to rule as regent in his absence. On the 28th of September of that year, under the golden light of the Pilis forest, Queen Gertrude rode out for a hunt alongside her brother, Archbishop Berthold, and Duke Leopold VI of Austria. No one knew that hidden among the silent trees were men who had sworn an oath sealed in blood and soil. Swords were drawn in silence, a plan long in the making, now unfolded like a ritual of slaughter. Accounts differ in their details, but the outcome remains unchanged. The Queen was savagely murdered. Her body was mutilated beyond recognition. She did not die as a monarch, but as a torn symbol of hatred, long repressed. Berthold and Duke Leopold barely escaped with their lives, but the blood spilled that day soaked into the forest leaves, leaving a stain upon the memory of Hungary, an unhealing wound etched into the nation's soul. After Queen Gertrude's death, the fate of her body became the center of chilling legends where history and myth intertwine. According to popular accounts that surfaced in the following decades, her assassins, driven by hatred for the foreign woman, did not stop at murder. They allegedly subjected her corpse to the ultimate symbolic humiliation, leaving it in a secluded part of the forest to be devoured by wild boars. In medieval Christian society, where preserving the body for resurrection was sacred, such a fate represented not only a denial of a proper burial, but a total rejection of her humanity and soul. Though unconfirmed by contemporary sources, the story endured, casting a shadow of horror over the infamous assassination. Official records state that Gertrude was buried at the Cistercian Abbey of Pylos. If any desecration occurred before her formal burial, chroniclers of the time remained silent, perhaps to avoid provoking the wrath of King Andrew II upon his return from campaign. Gertrude's death sent shockwaves across Europe, not merely because of the blood spilled in the Pilis forest, but because murdering a queen, a vessel of royal blood, was a direct assault on the sacred order kings were believed to embody. When Andrew II returned, his fury was immediate. A few conspirators were punished. Strangely, many escaped severe consequences. Historians began to wonder, had the king deep down felt a quiet satisfaction? Had others done what he dared not, removed a wife too powerful, too troublesome, and too dangerous? That death is not extinguished, it smolders in history. The mutilated body of Gertrude of Morania has never ceased to haunt Hungary's historical memory. And from that haunting, her legacy rises not in honor, but in tragedy and symbolism. She left behind 5 children, each of whom would leave their mark on the political landscape of Europe. Bela would become King Bela IV of Hungary, the monarch who rebuilt the nation after the Mongol invasion. Elizabeth, her saintly daughter, would be canonized as Saint Elizabeth of Hungary. Coleman would wear the crown of Galicia, Andrew titled Prince of Halych, and Maria would become Queen of Bulgaria through her marriage to Ivan Usan II. More than 6 centuries after her brutal death, Gertrude's name would be resurrected in art this time, as a cursed spectre in the soul of a nation. In 1819, Hungarian playwright Josef Katona penned Bankban, a haunting tragedy based on the Queen's assassination. In the play now, a cornerstone of Hungarian literature, Gertrude, renamed Gertrudis, is portrayed as a despotic regent luxuriating in excess, while the native Hungarians suffer in silence. The tale reaches its cruel climax when Bankban, the central character, murders her after discovering that her brother Otto has raped his wife Melinda with Gertrude's silent approval. In 1861, composer Ferenc Erkel adapted the play into an opera, also titled Bankban, which became a nationalistic rallying cry during Hungary's subjugation under Habsburg rule. Yet behind the stage lights and soaring areas lies a different truth, quiet but undeniable. There is no historical evidence that Gertrude was especially oppressive, nor any confirmation that Otto committed such a crime, or that Bankban, a real historical figure, was her killer. The rape subplot appears to have been added later, likely as a way to personalize and emotionally justify the assassination beyond mere political rage. What we do know is this: Gertrude of Morania paid a high price for her ethnic favoritism and political ambition in an age where women were not expected to wield power so visibly. Her assassination marked one of the first violent clashes between German influence and emerging Hungarian nationalism, a conflict that would echo through Central Europe for centuries. Gertrude's story, both factual and fictional, continues to captivate because it touches on universal themes: the peril of unchecked power, the backlash against foreign influence, and the limits a people will accept from those who rule them, especially when those rulers are seen as outsiders. Gertrude's remains, whether buried or devoured by wild boars, remain an unsolved mystery. But one thing is certain: on the 28th of September, 1213, the Peles forest bore witness to one of the most haunting assassinations in Hungarian history. The true horror lies not in her death, but in how easily a person can be stripped of their humanity when seen as a threat to power. Gertrude was no longer a queen; she became a symbol of hate, disgraced even in death. Today, the forest stands silent, as if still hiding something. And when night falls, some say you can hear whispers between the trees, not of the murderers, but of a woman who was never truly heard. Because some deaths never really end.